brain fog, hot flashes, night sweats.
I think if there's 60 symptoms, I had 80 symptoms.
Creating a sisterhood that unites us all.
Like right here, I'm standing here and I'm sweating.
A lot of us are, ma'am.
Okay.
Tonight we're talking about everything.
Going like this.
Yeah, it's good, yeah.
And I mean everything.
What about libidos? Do you have trouble with that?
I don't.
Well done.
The symptoms, the frustrations, and the treatments.
Any idiot can take care of menopause. That's easy. It's perimenopause that's the trick.
Even how the men in our lives can help.
The mood swings, like, how do you deal with that? Like,
All right. As we navigate perimenopause and menopause together.
Hello and welcome to Navigating Menopause at the iconic Katharine Hepburn Cultural Arts Center on the gorgeous shoreline of Connecticut. Tonight we're going to talk about something that unites all of us. As we speak, there are 1 billion women across the globe going through menopause. Think about that, you three guys in the audience. And then think about the word menopause, and it has the word men in it. So we'll talk about that too. I want you guys to understand that this is going to be an evening of fun information, and I hope you leave here feeling a lot better about yourselves, about your kids, about your grandmothers, etc. Nothing is off limits, and we'd like to first welcome our own Lisa Carberg on breaking the taboo around menopause.
Hi everybody, it's Wendy Chin Tanner, your friendly neighborhood perimenopausal author friend.
It's something that impacts over 1 million women every year.
Vertigo, heart palpitations, elevated cholesterol.
Even celebrities aren't immune.
Guess what? It got me. And it got me bad.
Menopause is hell.
it is.
Some men don't really understand it.
What is menopause?
And sometimes even doctors have a hard time diagnosing it.
It's also an underlying issue around lack of education in medical school programs.
Menopause, which begins with perimenopause, when a woman's body produces less hormones and periods become irregular. It can start as early as the mid-30s or as late as a woman's 50s and last years with a long list of life-altering symptoms: hot flashes, skin dryness, trouble sleeping, fatigue, anger, depression, painful sex, and even brain fog. Meet author, wife, and mother of 2, Wendy Chin Tanner.
I started to have cognitive issues with focus and with memory, fits of rage that were just seemingly from nowhere.
In her early 40s, those symptoms ruled her home, work, and sex life. The first of several doctors she sought answers from sent her to a cardiologist. Her heart was fine.
But she also didn't recognize that these were perimenopause symptoms.
It took 18 months and 5 doctors to finally get diagnosed with perimenopause.
Good morning. Wendy Chin Tanner here.
So Wendy took to social media to educate other younger women about what could be happening to them.
Women are just saying, oh my God, me too, me too.
Many doctors report having little training on the subject. A 2022 study finding only 31% said they had menopause curriculum during residency, and research shows only about 5% of women seek out treatment. That's why Wendy is sharing her experience.
Systemic and institutional. We should be able to go out there and conquer perimenopause and menopause just like we have with so many other things.
The good news, there are options, hormonal and non-hormonal therapies. So talk to your doctor about what's best for you and your symptoms. Lisa Carberg, News 8.
And introducing our panel is author Wendy Chin Tanner, who you just heard from, Dr. Reverend Cheval Kimber, and Dr. Mary Jane Minkin. All right. Let's get down to the basics. Tell us, what is perimenopause? What is menopause?
Okay, how many hours do we have, folks? So we can keep talking all night, which is fine, because many of us will be up, so it's fine. So anyway.
Going like this.
Yeah, it's good, it's good, yeah. Can I start with menopause? Okay.
Sure.
Pooping out of the ovaries, that's basically it.
Wait, give me that again.
Pooping out of the ovaries.
Okay, good.
Is that okay?
All right.
That's good. We're very formal here, you know, very formal. And so the fancy word is cessation of ovarian function, okay? And that's what menopause is all about. And some people think about it as sort of planned obsolescence. The ovaries sort of stop working at a certain point, or sometimes they are removed surgically, or sometimes, unfortunate women have to have radiation therapy or chemotherapy, which takes away the ovarian function, and that we know about. The perimenopause, and of course menopause was we were just talking about it up here. Menopause used to be a concept of you go to bed one night premenopausal and you woke up the next morning postmenopausal and that was it. And that would have been lovely if that were the case, but it's not. And then we get into this perimenopause, which is actually a fairly new construct in the world. When I was a little girl, we didn't have perimenopause. I mean, plenty of ladies had it. You saw some of them up there. But people didn't talk about it. And the problem is the pattern of ovarian cessation of function, which is the fancy word, is not a smooth slope that it goes down, you know, very gradually and stuff like that. That'd be very nice if that happened, we could predict it. Unfortunately, and this is a graph I show, and unfortunately the med students are getting too young these days. They don't even understand this graph that I use. And I draw a little graph and it goes like this. And I tell them what it really is the Dow Jones Industrial Average in September of 2008, and they're like, what? We don't know about that. So anyway, but that's what our hormones are doing in perimenopause. So one day, for example, when your ovaries are doing nothing, you may have miserable hot flashes, and you'd be awful. And then the next day, when your ovaries are sort of doing double time compensatory work, your breasts may be killing you because you're shooting out estrogen like crazy the next day. And it's like, wait a minute, I don't understand this. I had hot flashes yesterday, and now my breasts are killing me. What's going on? And there are a whole bunch of other symptoms that we're going to be talking about as far as not just hot flashes and not just sleep and not just sore breasts and things like that. There are many, many symptoms. And the progress can be very slow, that it can be, you know, and totally unpredictable. And that's where the problems are. And so, and one of the statements that I make, and I don't mean to demean anybody, but one of the statements, and some of you heard me say this, I think, that any idiot can take care of menopause. That's easy. It's perimenopause that's the trick. And that's really the hard thing to talk about.
And we'll get to more of that in just a moment. All right, let's get to Wendy. All right, you were misdiagnosed how many times, and what were your symptoms?
So I had a slew of symptoms, really, up to 54, but
up to 54 symptoms, and there are 60 or so symptoms.
Yes.
and at what age did you have those symptoms?
So my symptoms started at 42, but perimenopause really hit me hard when the pandemic hit the world. And I like to call that my own personal peridemic, because it was very difficult to parse out what was the pandemic and what was my perimenopause, because nobody was sleeping. Everybody was anxious, everybody was irritable, everybody was stressed. So when I went to the doctor, those things were seen as normal to the situation that was happening at that time. I had heart palpitations and elevated cholesterol, and those were the things that kind of rang the alarm bell. I was sent to a cardiologist, and for some of my other symptoms, I was also sent to an endocrinologist, 2 separate OBGYNs. So it took 5 doctors to finally get the HRT that I needed. 5 doctors who prescribed statins and birth control pills and antidepressants.
I'm sure this sounds familiar to some of you.
And I felt horrible. None of it helped. None of it helped. And it took 18 months for me to finally advocate for myself enough to get on HRT.
Chevelle, let's hear your story.
I started perimenopause at 46, never heard the term perimenopause. Talking to my doctor, I'm having hot flashes. I think if there's 60 symptoms, I had 80 symptoms. I'm sharing it, and my doctor says, well, if it's menopause, we gotta do a blood test. Took the blood test, and voila, menopause.
Did you get help right away?
I didn't get help right away, and I was not prescribed anything because the doctor said, well, you know what you have now with hot flashes and all your other 80 symptoms. If you take something for it, you don't know the side effects. So I suffer with it.
All right, and we'll talk more about HRT in just a moment. All right, we said we were going to have a lot of fun and we're going to hear from the audience. You have a question, tell me your name and where are you from?
Sure. I'm Jackie Fritzinger from Madison. I'm 63, and so I've been going through menopause, but I just wonder, does it ever end?
No.
Doesn't feel like it.
Short answer to that is?
Symptoms can persist for quite a while, okay? But I always want to temper bad news with good news, okay? The good news is that hot flashes do tend to get better over the course of time. Unfortunately, about 10% of women will have hot flashes that persist for more than 10 years, but they do tend to keep getting better and better.
All right, so there's good news on the horizon. I want to talk to Cheval a second, and I will get to you too, Dr. Minkin, about you are a cancer survivor.
Yes.
For those women who have had cancer, who have cancer that is fed by estrogen, you cannot go on HRT.
Right.
How do you help these women?
We have a lot of options for women who can't take estrogen. I mean, estrogen still is the best, most reliable therapy for hot flashes, for vasomotor symptoms, if you want to sound fancy. However, we have a lot of approaches for women who cannot take estrogen, and Cheval and I were talking a little bit about this. Yeah. I sort of think about it in sort of 3 or 4 different categories. There are some over-the-counter herbal type remedies. Now, some people, and it's hard, they are not well regulated, unfortunately, much of the time, so you have to know the source and what values they are and talk to people who know. And just because a celebrity has come up with a hot flash remedy, don't rely on it, I mean, I won't name names, but anyway, there are certain actresses and things like that. I wouldn't want to talk to them about acting. I don't know anything about that, but they know about hormones. So anyway, so whatever, be that as it may. So there are some herbal products which work very nicely.
Have you tried any of those?
I've not.
So you've tried nothing?
I've tried nothing.
So, and again, there are certain varieties of black cohosh are fairly well regulated. There are other varieties of herbal products which are out there which can be helpful for hot flashes. And I would talk to your advisor and stuff like that, medical advisor, as far as what to try.
Well, in speaking to the medical advisor, she said, I know what I'm getting now with the hot flashes. If I take something, I don't know the side effects. So which would I rather? Deal with the hot flashes or deal with the unknown side effects?
Well, I think that we have data on a lot of the products out there that we do know the side effects, and you can make the decision of whether they're good for you or not. Okay.
And there you go. Wendy, let's talk about your situation right now. You're under control, you feel good, you are on HRT.
I am on HRT, therapy. And thank goodness for it, because I'm just one of those people who would not be functional without it. I'm so grateful that I can take it. So I'm currently on estradiol in the form of a gel that I dose myself with every day. I take progesterone in the form of micronized oral progesterone, and I also take testosterone, which is in gel form as well. I take 1/10 of the male dose, which is the physiologic female dose, and that's the thing that has really done wonders for my cognitive issues, for my brain fog.
All right, more on this in a moment after the break. We are back. The audience is participating. We're getting some answers, some information, having some fun. Tell me your name and where you're from.
My name is Phyllis Turner, and I'm from Meriden.
And what is your question?
So I started about 52. I got sick, and I had emergency hysterectomy. I woke up in the hospital immediately. As soon as I woke up, I was drenched. I had no idea what was going on, and they wouldn't tell me. Later on, I found out I was having hot flashes.
That's frightening. Yes. And you would say what to that? Baffled.
I feel terrible for you.
Yes.
And unfortunately, much of menopause is held in mystery for people. And I'm delighted we have forums like this that we can be talking about it and educate women. Yeah. And just to say, these things happen. We have things that we can do to make you better, okay, and take away a lot of the discomfort.
Thank you for your question. All right, let's talk about funding and women's health and menopause. Politicians, even celebrities, have been pushing for more help. Let's take a look. And joining me now is Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro. Thank you so much for being here. I know you have a really busy schedule. All right, let's talk about women's issues.
They're here.
What's happening on the federal level to help with menopause, other health issues?
Yes, no, this is a very, very interesting piece. Menopause, this is one of the most unresearched healthcare issues that we have in this case, in this country. And we have millions of women who have debilitating nightly sweats, debilitating hot flashes. There's mental health issues and anxiety involved, depression. 75 million women are either perimenopausal, menopausal, or postmenopausal.
And that's just this country.
That's right. 6,000 new every day. 6,000 new every day.
So what can Congress do to help women?
Well, it's the research. The science has not really kept up with helping to make a difference in the research. The research dollars that go into how we can deal with treatment for women and with menopause and midlife women's health issues.
The biggest problem for me, now that I'm past it, was the brain fog.
Yes, that's
trying to,
right.
Trying to center myself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, HRT therapy is so important, hormone replacement therapy, for women who can get that. For those who can't, we have to help them.
That's right. And we have, there's many pieces of legislation now that are in play, including in the Senate. Colleagues have introduced something that deals with the research effort and then the treatment effort specifically for midlife health issues for women. But it takes a long time for legislation to
We don't
pass.
have time.
We don't have time. And we need to fund this through the National Institutes of Health, which is what frightens me because there's been serious cuts being made to the NIH. There was $56 million, I believe, last year for 120 research projects, a number of them for menopause. If we cut those off, if we cut off research, which it looks like we are doing, it's a problem, cutting Medicaid would be an enormous problem because that would be the way in which lower income women and seniors who would be able to have access to the health care and the treatment.
Congresswoman DeLauro, a lot of folks now are speaking out about this. We're getting it out of the shadows. I don't know why it was ever there. But you recently talked to Halle Berry, who's very open about this as she started through it. What did she tell you?
Well, it was very, very interesting. And she was diagnosed with the worst herpes case that her physician had ever seen. And what it was a misdiagnosis. It was perimenopause. And that was the problem. So what she did, she says, I'm going to use this as a platform. And that's what she's doing. It was about a year ago, just about a year ago, that we met up and so forth. And we talked about the research and the need to spend time and effort on just understanding it better, understanding the response to it. A lot of the pieces of legislation are looking at service women and what does combat or what does the stress of the military have on people. There are research pieces of legislation as well.
I think we need to stress this in medical school, too. It seems as though it's glossed over. I mean, I think we have a long way to go with women's health issues in the first place.
That's always the case, if I may say this. Women's health has always taken a step back. It wasn't until that's almost 30 years ago, and when I was in the Congress, when I first went to the Congress, women were not included. Women and minorities not included in the clinical trials at the National Institutes of Health. And I will just tell you, in a bipartisan way, it was Nita Lowey, Nancy Johnson, Nancy Pelosi, myself, Connie Morella, etc. We fought to get women included in the clinical trials at the NIH and the Office of Women's Health Research. So far, the Office of Women's Health Research has not been touched. I've got my fingers crossed that there will be no cuts in that effort because that's where we see the dollars for research.
Are you getting your male counterparts to talk about this finally?
There's oh my God, they look at their shoes. They look at their shoes.
And they have daughters and moms and wives.
Right, sisters, etc.
Why is that?
I think women's health issues, as I say, have always taken a back step. It's not like, it's almost like, you know, men and women in the same job don't get the same pay. Women don't get the same pay as men do. You know, it's about understanding women. And, you know, it's half the people in this nation who are affected with this. So there ought to be more focus and more attention. But it's like, oh my God, that's a woman's issue. You talk about it behind closed doors.
Not anymore.
Not
Rosa.
anymore. It's
Not
done.
anymore.
No.
So going forward, as we go on in the months and years, what's going to be on the docket, do you think, besides research? What else are we going to look at here as far as women?
You know, I think we have to deal with the treatment and provide the resources necessary for the treatment of what research discovers. You know, I had language put in to the appropriations bill in 2023 while I was still, you know, the chair of the Appropriations Committee that focused on a research center specifically around the issue of menopause and what would be then the kinds of treatments that we could invest in. So it's not just the research, because the research doesn't do you any good unless you've got the money, et cetera, to bring it to market so that women can take advantage of it.
Amen. Congresswoman DeLauro, thank you so much
Love
for being
you.
here.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.
All right, so we're still fighting, aren't we? We're still trying to get, you know, guys to listen to us. And when we come back, we hopefully have a question from one of the men in our audience. One of you better step up. We'll be right back.
No pressure.
Okay, when we last left you, we were talking about guys and whatnot. How is your husband handling this? I'm going to ask both of you. All right, let's start with you, Shabelle.
My husband is handling it in a safe manner. Everything is yes and okay, honey. Sure, whatever.
All right, let's discuss a safe manner.
Right.
How did he learn what was safe?
The rage, the mood swings after having them.
So he became afraid.
Yes. Very afraid, because they were bad. They're terrible.
Okay, so he's
safe
with you.
and he's, yes, honey. Yes, honey.
Love this. Pay attention. All right, Wendy, how about your husband? Do they know what to do with this? Because we don't even know what to do about it. We don't know what to call it. We don't know what kind of questions to ask our physicians. How's he doing?
He's doing okay. My husband had to become informed, and by that I don't mean ask me a whole bunch of questions about it. I mean actually inform himself. And I think Gen X men, and my own included, have done such a great job at involving themselves more in childbirth and pregnancy. So this is no different in terms of being a huge rite of passage, not only for the woman, but for the entire family system. So it's not just our problem. It's your problem too. So, you know, we need to tackle it in that manner and appreciate it as an almost 10-year-long process, sometimes even more. So it's highly significant.
How did he educate himself?
Well, I sent him some articles.
Again, you're doing the work, right?
He watched my TikToks.
But you were helping yourself, and I'm sure you got a lot of
Yes.
feedback. All right, we're talking about men, and we have a guy. Thank you. You have a question. Tell me your name and where you're from.
My name is Tyrone. I'm from Ansonia.
All right, lean in. We got to hear you. Come right up to that mic.
My question is the mood swings. Like, how do you deal with that? Like, I mean.
All right, so this is
minute-
going to be Dr. Macon's question, but mood swings, what do you mean by a mood swing?
1 minute we cool, the next minute, I didn't even do nothing.
How do we help this gentleman?
Can I help him really quickly?
Yes, you
Please.
can. Yes.
Just yes, honey. Yes, honey.
All right, that's one way. Other ways?
Well, I'm a great believer in the power of sleep. And that I think that women are rested, they feel a lot better and they can handle their emotions a lot better. And so one of the problems that's really devastating for many women is the lack of sleep. And whether women get up with hot flashes or they just wake up spontaneously and then get a hot flash, whatever. But menopausal women, perimenopausal women have terrible sleep for many parts of the thing. So there are certain things that we encourage to help women to get sleep, lifestyle things. One of the things that I really believe in, particularly for partners in this situation, is that you want to sleep in a room with the window wide open, hopefully it's cold, and you get your a dual control electric blanket. It's very important because she don't want anything and he needs the heat. So that's very important to try to get her some sleep. A cold room does help. As far as interventions, whether it's an herbal remedy, whether it's a non-hormonal medication, whether it's hormone therapy, there are a lot of things that we can do to help sleep for women. And if we can buy her some more sleep, that's really important.
Are you good now?
That's key.
Yes.
All right, you may have a seat. Thank you so much. And we'll be right back. All right, menopause and the bedroom and sex. All right, take it. The dryness thing.
Well, unfortunately, vaginal dryness is a major problem for many women. I just want to clarify one thing. We talked about hot flashes getting better. Just the good news is they're miserable, but they will get better in general for most people. Vaginal dryness gets worse, unfortunately, for most women over the course of time. And it may start relatively late in menopause, so late that many women don't even associate that it's menopausal. It'll be like, no, menopause is hot flashes. No, I've got this vaginal dryness now. This is 3 years later. That's not menopause. And so the key thing is that it's real, it happens. A couple of other simple things to understand. It's not just vaginal dryness. A lot of women get bladder symptoms as well, and simple things like urinary tract infections, but leakage and all sorts of other fabulous things, going to the bathroom all the time, where are we stopping the car and stuff like that. And the good news is that the vaginal symptoms are very easy to treat in comparison. The hot flashes can be tricky. Vaginal symptoms are easy. We have a lot of remedies which are both hormonal and non-hormonal, okay? And some of the non-hormonal stuff, of course, is over the counter. We got plenty of those there. But the hormonal stuff is absolutely safe, okay? There are some oncologists who have little anxieties about prescribing vaginal estrogen to women who have estrogen receptor positive tumors, but the amount that gets absorbed is really minuscule, so most women can use it, and they're readily available and they help. So there's help available, folks. Please don't put up with being miserable and saying, okay, it's closed, no more sex, okay?
All right, and on that, what about libidos? Do you have trouble with that? I can't believe I've been saying this, vaginal dryness, libidos. Do you have issues with that?
I don't.
Well done. Wendy?
Well,
can you follow that?
Yes. I mean, number one, testosterone is great stuff. So that's the first thing. But secondly, Dr. Esther Perel, who is a famous sexologist and therapist for relationships, she says that the next orgasm begins after the last one ends, meaning there's a lot that leads up to sex. There's a lot more to foreplay than just the physical. Mm-hmm. It's flirting, it's texting, it's non-sexual
so dating
touch.
Your partner again.
Exactly,
Absolutely.
dating your partner again. Exactly. I've been married for 20 years this year, and the dating's going good. Mm-hmm. So,
all right.
And the yes, honey.
I want to talk about brain fog. How many in this room have had trouble concentrating at work? And this happens to us when we're in our 40s and 50s and at the peak of our careers, right? So a lot of you, I mean, I have had it. I can remember interviewing some people and forgetting their name, and I thought, what is wrong with me? Do you think you're going crazy? Or, again, we don't know the questions to ask. What do we do about brain fog?
Well, again, I'm going to come back to that sleep issue, number one, because sleep is really important. So if we can get people a good night's sleep, that's fabulous, okay? There is certainly some data that talks about the role of estrogen in cognition, the word retrieval and things like that. Hormone therapy can be very helpful, okay? And there are non-hormonal things that can be helpful there. One of the questions that does come up is about the role of testosterone. And it's not clear. The official guidelines on testosterone is that it's for libido, for sex drive in postmenopausal women. There is some data out there that suggests that testosterone can be helpful, okay? But certainly estrogen can be, I wouldn't jump into testosterone first. I would talk about using estrogen therapy first to see if it helps clear things up.
All right, let's go back to brain fog, since that is such a big problem for gals out in the audience, and it was for me too. Do you remember when it hit you? What were you doing? What happened?
I don't remember when it hit me.
Because there was brain fog.
But it's important, you know, I prepare sermons. I'm speaking in front of congregations, and to sit there even with your manuscript and have the word and can't bring it forth, that's a problem.
All right, and what about you? What about brain fog, Wendy?
Well, I'm an author, so words are the tools of my trade, so it's a real problem for me to have brain fog. I had my worst nightmare happen when I was on book tour, actually. I was on stage, not unlike this, and I was speaking into my microphone. Everything was going fine, but then I had a full-blown face of makeup melting off, hot flash, and I completely lost my train of thought. And I was mortified. I was absolutely mortified. And then I started to think, why am I mortified? You know, this happens to 50% of us. So, you know, we really have to start to destigmatize and normalize that this happens, and it's okay when this happens, and it doesn't diminish you as a career person.
And I think it helps a lot to hear other women say this, so you're not alone. What you're doing and going through and might be going through at some point in your life, this helps a lot. We'll be back with more in just a moment. A lot of women go through menopause and perimenopause in 30s, 40s, 50s, but there are younger women that start in it into their 20s. Either they've been diagnosed with cancer, go through that, whatever. Let's look at perhaps some help in that direction.
Giving women a chance at motherhood after a heartbreaking diagnosis.
You can imagine when we're dealing with, for example, cancer patients, that's a major life stress. But a lot of these patients, when they hear that they're going to lose their fertility, it's almost overtakes that stress of being diagnosed with cancer.
Dr. Kutluk Oktay performed the first ovarian transplant at New York Methodist Hospital back in 1999. The procedure started as a way to preserve fertility in women facing medical challenges like cancer.
Restoring what nature gave to women.
Now at Yale, Dr. Oktay recently performed the first transplant of this kind in New England. He explains to us how it works.
Women are born with all the eggs they can have, and they sit on top of both ovaries. Kind of think about the orange peel, and the pulp doesn't have any eggs, but the peel has all the immature eggs that make up the ovarian reserve. So we peel off that layer and preserve that.
The technique is no longer considered experimental because of its success.
There are now hundreds of babies born, and some of my patients are having their third children out of transplants.
In otherwise healthy patients, Dr. Oktay sees this as a way to not only restore fertility, but hormonal function, essentially stopping menopause.
I have patients who have been in menopause for decades, and then you put their tissues back. Now they start, normal function. You reverse menopause in a way, in that sense.
Improving quality of life and giving women a future to look forward to.
We keep extending lifespan, especially in women, but menopausal age has not changed.
Dr. Oktay says this proactive instead of reactive approach to treating menopause can be a real game changer for women. Lisa Carberg, News 8.
All right, so something that might be on the horizon for us to help us out. In your practice, how many women have you come up against that have been in their 20s or 30s?
20s and 30s are unusual. I mean, of course, unless they have a cancer or something like that. As far as spontaneous change is not that often in general.
So what do you say to the person who is on the younger side that is going through something strange?
Okay. Well, I mean, as far as perhaps diagnosing perimenopause in a young woman who doesn't have an obvious cause, sort of thing like that. It's tricky. It's really tricky, okay? And part of the problem is, and everybody in America hate people that hate getting blood drawn, but everybody else loves to have a blood test. They love to have an answer from a blood marker about what's going on. Perimenopause can be very, very difficult to diagnose.
And what about age? What age do you start looking at that?
Well, in general, we're starting usually into the 30s.
Okay.
You don't see too many people with spontaneous menopausal changes other than, again, with a cancer diagnosis or something like that in the 20s. Very unusual. It could happen. happen, but it's very, very unusual. And there are many causes. I mean, so some people would say, well, it's obvious she has hot flashes. Well, it's got to be this. Well, actually, in somebody who presents to my office who's 35 and she's sweating a lot, even I as a gynecologist am going to think more about thyroid disease than I am about menopause for her. And I'm going to check it out, obviously, and work that up. But there are women who do have premature menopause. And sometimes, and again, the important thing that I do want to make sure we get to is that if a woman has very early menopause, and she's through perimenopause, we know she's fully menopausal, and she's real young, she's a woman in her 30s, these women, please, if you know somebody like that isn't getting help, please get her to a gynecologist who knows some menopause, because she needs estrogen. Unless there's something barring her from taking estrogen, a woman who's in her 30s who becomes fully menopausal needs estrogen. She needs it for her symptomatology, but she also needs, and she needs it for her vagina and things like that, but she needs it for her bones, she needs it for her heart, she needs it for her brain, and we have very good data on that. And we can take care of that. We can prevent these sequelae.
I love that you can say you can take care of that.
Yeah,
That's
we can
terrific.
take care of that. We can do that.
Do either of you ever feel dismissed, and how do you advocate for yourself when you're trying to get to the bottom of what the deal is?
When I had the conversation with my doctor, I just kept it in front of her. I'm experiencing something. And again, I hadn't heard the term perimenopause. And she insisted that I was too young. It was not happening until we did this blood test, and it revealed that it was. So I just kept it in front of her. Something going on, these hot flashes, you have to do something. Blood tests.
It's something to be said for having to go back and back and back and advocate. Wendy?
Yes, I mean, I had to advocate for myself for 18 months to get HRT. And finally, what I did was I brought in all of the research that I had been doing and presented it in a folder to my doctor, who finally then gave up and prescribed a patch for me at progesterone. But
women's work is never done.
Never.
Yes. All right, we're going to wrap this up in just a second. We're going to take a break first. All right, we're going to take some more questions from the audience to help you get the answers that you needed to this evening. Go ahead, give me your name and where you're from.
Hi, so I'm Shire Lyon from Brantford. I'm 43. Unfortunately, I also have PCOS, which no one ever knows what that is, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And I recently started having a lot of trouble sleeping. I have hair loss, just not feeling like myself. And I was sent to a reproductive endocrinologist, and his response was, well, do you want to have a baby? And I said, no, I want to feel better. And he said, well, I don't know what you want me to do for you. I am on birth control, but my question is, what can I do to feel better? I'm a professional. I have to be out there. I can't forget someone's name if I can help it. I need to be awake and alert.
Short answer to that, doctor?
Well, can I ask a clinical question? Have you tried, you're currently on birth control pills?
Yes.
Okay. There are many varieties of birth control pills. So birth control pills can be very helpful in the situation, but there are a whole bunch of different varieties, and it probably would be good to be with somebody who understands that they're not all created equal, and there are very different ones that might be tried to help you better.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please. Sir, what is your name and where are you from?
Dennis Libby from Cheshire. I am a father of 3 daughters and 6 granddaughters. I think we have that formula down pretty well. As a man, what can we do to help? We support our wives, obviously, but what can we do to help support this woman's cause?
All right, Wendy, you take it. You're a blogger. You talk about this all the time.
Yes, I mean, I think certainly being informed, like it seems like you are, is very, very helpful, but then also helping your female partner or your daughter or granddaughter advocate with healthcare professionals who are giving them pushback. Unfortunately, we still have a good amount of misogyny in this country, and it's easier to get things done sometimes when there's a man in the room.
Chevelle, what advice do you have for him?
Yes, honey.
Take the safe zone. Yes, honey.
Yes,
and finally,
honey.
Dr. Lincoln.
Well, try to get as much advice to them as you can, knowledge. There's a lot of misinformation and things like that. And there are several sources around. I mean, the Menopause Society has a very, very excellent website, menopause.org. A lot of information there. And also, although we have plenty of folks in this area who know what they're doing throughout the United States, they don't, I mean, many people. So anyway, they have a lovely registry on the menopause.org. If you plug in your zip code, they list a bunch of people who like to talk about menopause and have studied menopause, who are providers who can take care of them. So that's important. I will make a plug for my education. You can go to madameovary.org, a fabulous website.
Don't you love that? Madameovary.org.
Or as Miss Piggy would say, Madame Ovary, c'est moi. But anyway, but with a fair amount of education, there are a bunch of podcasts and things to talk about exciting things like dry vaginas and hot flashes, trying to make it, it's important stuff, absolutely. So things like that are very important to get folks educated. Thank you for your question. Thank you very much.
Next, please.
Hi, I'm Kim Bowker. I'm from Old Lyme, Connecticut. I'm 59. I was premenopausal in my early 30s. I had a complete hysterectomy, including ovaries. I saw a specialist, a naturopath, that told me my progesterone and testosterone were in the negatives. Didn't do much for me. And I currently am seeing an endocrinologist because I've been dealing with this sweating nonstop. Like right here, I'm standing here and I'm sweating.
A lot of us are, ma'am.
Okay. Yes. But, I'm fatigued. I have a CPAP machine that tells me that I sleep well at night, but I wake up and I'm exhausted. I can just go to sleep at any time. So I don't know what I should do, if I should go back to a gynecologist or should I follow this path with the endocrinologist.
Well, I'm happy to talk about that. If you go to a gynecologist who has been educated on menopause, that would be fabulous. Unfortunately, we had this gap in our educational system for about 20 years that nobody learned any menopause management. So do find somebody who's trained in menopausal health care. Unfortunately, it's not, and we can do separate things offline here, but anyway, as far as continuation of estrogen therapy, we like to start it early if possible. And that's one thing that folks, if you are experiencing this, don't say, well, I'll talk about this 10 years from now. It's ideal to get it started sooner. We also do have some powerful new medications coming out these days, which are non-hormonal medications for vasomotor symptoms, hot flashes. There's one available, there are several that are going to be coming out, and they really do work fairly nicely. So we have other options. Things are changing, which is good.
Meet with her later. She's got it.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you very much for your question. I appreciate it. All right, just to sum up this evening, I hope this has been informational, that you're going to take some words of wisdom back that will help all of you. And just in summing up this time tonight, give me the pieces of advice that you would give others going through what you've gone through.
Don't suffer in silence. You don't win a medal for white knuckling it through. Go early, like Dr. Minkin was saying, to get help, because there are many physical as well as psychological benefits to doing so. And also, just on a social level, let's try to move the needle. We have the tools to not only support our bodies, but to support each other in terms of destigmatizing and normalizing talking about it. And also, it's a rite of passage that's just as important as adolescence. It's reverse adolescence, actually. So just as important as adolescence and childbirth, we have quinceañeras, we have bat mitzvahs, we have sweet 16s, we have baby showers. Why don't we have a party for menopause?
Well said. Absolutely. I would say advocate for yourselves. Do not let doctors just push you away or dismiss you. Don't carry shame when we're going through this menopause phase. Again, it's a milestone in life. So advocate for yourselves. And when it's happening and you know it's happening, don't take no for an answer. And for the husbands, it's always yes, honey.
And Dr. Menken, you have the final word.
Oh my God. How long did I get now? Anyway, they've all said it better than me. That indeed this is something that happens to all of us, and that, I mean, I get very upset when we don't teach menopause education in residency programs in obstetrics and gynecology. We always want to teach everybody how to deliver a baby. Well, God willing, we live long enough, we're all going to go through menopause. And not everybody has a baby. So I think it's more important even than, well, having a baby is pretty important. But anyway, we want to teach folks really well and be able to take care of our patients. That's really important. We're sources of information. And again, ask, don't worry about asking, ask questions. Try to find yourself a competent person to help take care of you, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Thank you so much. And thank you. Thank you to all of you who are helping us push the needle forward. And I hope this was a great evening for all of you. Thank you so much, Wendy, Cheval, Dr. Menken. Thank you. Thank you.